everybody and welcome. Peter is my name. This is the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Thank you for stopping by. Well, after a couple of videos on Warhammer the Old World, we're taking a little journey down the road to one of their competitors, one of Games Workshop's competitors. They're called Mantic Games, and they're a very successful game company in their own right. They make games which are sort of the more affordable end of the spectrum, I guess, from Games Workshop. There's certain similarities. I think the founder of Mantic actually used to work for Games Workshop. I'm not sure of the whole history there, but he went off to form his own company, Mantic Games. And they have their own universe, of course, for both fantasy and science fiction games. But, you know, if you're not into Games Workshop stuff, they're an alternative, and they make some very cool stuff. Today we're looking at Firefight. This is the brand new starter set. It's very exciting. I've got the original edition, or the last edition, which is actually second edition of Firefight, and I've painted up all the models. I'm going to show them to you later. I just got this one in the post today, so I thought we'd open it up together. Mantic sent this to me for free, very kindly. Thank you, Mantic. And so I could show it off to you. But my opinions, as always, are always my own. Now, I've done a rule summary and reference for Firefight. I have the second edition, which is the edition before this, and they actually came out with a book which updated the lists and made some changes to the rules. And that's all incorporated in this new set, Assault on Exham. And this has two different armies, of course, in it from that last set. So this is where I'm very embarrassed. I haven't actually played Firefight yet. Oh, I've painted two entire armies from the last set and I still haven't got around to playing it. So many games to play. It just got forgotten in the rush. Terrible. I am definitely looking forward to giving it a go with this new edition and with the new rules. And I'll probably play it straight away with my old armies, and then I'll paint up these new armies in here. So you might ask, what's the history of Firefight? How did it come about? Well, the original game was Warpath. That was the science fiction game that Mantic created, which was their alternative to Warhammer 40,000. It was a mass battle science fiction game. Now, there was a option in there to do squad level games called Firefight, and that became sort of the preferred way of playing the game, and Warpath sort of faded away and Firefight took over. Now, for the skirmish level games, you have another one called Dead Zone, which I've covered a lot on this channel. In fact, for the original edition of Dead Zone, I did a long series on painting the entire set and the terrain and all that kind of stuff. That's a fantastic skirmish level game. I highly recommend it. It's a very fast playing system. I really have to play it more because it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of your kill team alternative. Firefight is now your Warhammer 40,000 alternative, but they're also going to make an epic scale game as well. So you can see they kind of follow the Games Workshop mold a little bit, but in fact they were going to do an epic scale game, and then the epic re-release was announced by Games Workshop. So they actually asked the public whether they should continue with doing epic, and everyone said yes. You've got your Games Workshop fan people and you've got your Mantic fan people. Now, personally, I like to play both, just because I like to cram huge amounts of rules in my head. Well, no, that's not the reason at all. It's just because I love games. I love trying out all different games from all different types of publishers. And I don't tend to sort of settle on one game, even though, you know, some games may have easier playing rules or better models or whatever. I tend to sort of flip from game to game depending on what I feel like. Maybe some of you are like that. Maybe some of you like to absolutely focus on one game. It's horses for courses, isn't it? So I've talked enough. Let's open up this box and see what you get in it. It's nice and heavy. It's got a lot in there. So let's check it out. Okay, Assault on Exham. Now, I've complained before about these side opening boxes. Everyone seems to be doing it these days because it's cheaper. I don't like them. And there are two reasons. One, I find it difficult to get the boxes out like this. You know, it's sort of, and then you have a plain box inside. And also, these get damaged really easily because they're quite thin cardboard. And when you're taking it out of the side all the time, it tends to get damaged. So I'm not a fan of that, but I realise that Mantic are very much about making things affordable. So that's understandable. And you can see that straight away when you open up the box, because look at that. It's just a whole lot of stuff. As you can see, it's just absolutely packed in. There's no concession to sort of fancy box packing here. There's a huge amount of stuff packed up to the gunnels. So let's see what you've got in this stuff. Check it all out. I think, let's have a look. There's 55 miniatures in here. We've got 25 vermin, crawlers, stalkers, 4 nightmares, 2 tunnel runners, 1 tunneler, and 2 progenitors. Now the vermin are basically your rat people. So they're kind of the sci-fi equivalent of the Games Workshop's Skaven, except in space. Vermin, get it? You've also got 15 Forge Fathers, Steel Warriors, 5 Forge Guard, 1 Stern Hammer, and 1 Forge Guard Huskal. The Forge Fathers are, of course, your space dwarves. And the great thing about this set is that it's got 2 big vehicles in it as well, which is very exciting. The vermin have this big tunneling thing, and the dwarves have a tank. So very cool. Really like that. So here's the box. We've got lots and lots of bases, of course. Mantic have this sort of standard base, which is kind of solid, and it's got a hole in the bottom you can stick your magnet in. So if you put it that side up and you stick your magnet in there, if you're magnetising your bases, that's what you do. For the larger bases, for some reason, they stick with these MDF things, which are slightly, are they the same thickness? They're slightly thinner than the main bases. I don't know why they don't just make larger bases as well in plastic, but for some reason they're sticking with MDF. So there you go. Got a few of those. This system uses 8-sided dice, which I think is really good because it gives you a wider range of probabilities than 6-sided dice. And of course you don't have to have that dreaded 2-wound step in your games because you've got a wider range of possibilities. I'll talk a little bit about the rules a bit later. So, some big Ziploc bags. Now, this looks like the Skaven drilling thing. And there's some nice big pieces here. Check it out, big hatch on the end like that. There's multiple drills that go on the end. Very cool. I don't know about you, but I just love the idea of vermin coming up through the ground in this big kind of Jules Verne-like tunneling machine and then pouring out going... Love it. So I was very happy to see that in the set because I've actually painted some of the vermin from the last edition, and I had my eye on this tunneling machine as well, so I'm really glad it came in this set. Actually, I tell a lie, not from the last edition. The vermin were in the last edition of Dead Zone. So there you go. The last edition of Firefight had basically the orcs and the kind of marine type figures. Now we've got a couple of these kind of wheel things. Oops, oh no, there's pieces everywhere. Oops, well, I've got to be careful. I'm going to lose bits. This is like a kind of wheel with a rat in it, as you can see. And I've actually painted one of these up for Dead Zone, so pretty cool figure. You can imagine these barreling across the battlefield. So you get 2 of those. This is a big tank. Now it's not a Ziploc bag, so if I open this, all the pieces are going to go everywhere. Got to be careful. So that's your Forge Father's tank. Looks like a nice big size. Fantastic. These are command dice, some special dice that you use during the game. And then we've got a heap of the infantry figures. Got the vermin, of course, and the dwarves. There you go, quite a lot of stuff. Heaps of miniatures. Now, in here, we've got books. Now, one of the great things about the system for Firefight is that they put everything in one box, which is so cool. In the last edition, it came in 2 books. It looks like this time they've got one big book with it all in it. And you've got all the stats for all of the armies. When I say all of the armies, you've got vermin, the plague, Maison labs, the marauders, who are your orcs, space orcs basically, GCPS, who are kind of your human space army, Forge Fathers, your dwarves, Enforcers, which are kind of like space marines, Asterians, who are kind of like alien space elves, sort of. So they're all in there, and of course your rules and everything are in there as well. all in one book. You don't have to buy separate army books or anything like that. You can start playing and start collecting the army of your choice straight away with all the information. I think this is so fantastic. You know, I'm sorry I have to inevitably compare Games Workshop and Mantic throughout this thing. You know, Games Workshop do great stuff. You know, I plug it all the time and I love it and I play it. But I do get frustrated sometimes how you can buy a set and then you have to buy all these extra things and it ends up being this endless purchasing thing, and then books get updated and all that kind of stuff. Well, here it all is in one book. Very, very cool. There's a getting started sheet. So this will tell you how to put some miniatures together and gives you army lists for them. Quick reference, things like that. A little bit damaged there, unfortunately. Now, there is a flip side to the affordability of this set and other Mantic sets. Is for some reason, and I do not know why, they make it very difficult to construct these models. There are rules on the internet, on their website for constructing them, but I always find them very hard to find and very hard to follow. They kind of throw you in the deep end when it comes to putting the models together. It's quite doable for experienced modelers. I think for people starting, it's kind of tricky. I mean, they give you a get started thing here, and they give you the basics on how to put the things together. I just wish it was a little bit more clear. Certainly by putting some of the army figures together and the enforcer figures, I've often found myself scratching my head and trying to find out how it all works. Anyway, we've got some counter sheets. These look like exactly the same counter sheets from the second edition. There we go. They've got these big trays. I think they're movement trays or something. I'm not really sure what they're for. Anyway, all your counters, nice bright coloured counters. So there you go. As you can see, the box is packed to the gunnels with stuff. You've got two nice little armies here. Let's see how big they are. Forge Father's Strike Force, according to this, is 810 points. The Vermin Strike Force is 792 points. Now, in the last edition, I managed to add just a few little figures and got them both to about 890 points. So, but I added a few things, so they're about the same size. So, yeah, great way to get started, really. Now, let's talk about the rules a little bit. So, as I mentioned, I haven't played Firefight yet, and I'm going to rectify this terrible state of affairs as soon as possible. However, there's an interesting thing about these rules. They're pretty straightforward. If you go and look at my rules and reference, you can get it from my website at orderofgamers.com. You will get all the rules you need to play. Basically, it comes down to when you're doing combat and everything, there's basically a combat roll, and then you have an armor roll. Now, one thing on reading the rules that I'm not absolutely crazy about is the fact that you make both the 2-hit roll and the armor roll. The person attacking makes both of those rolls. And I kind of feel I want to engage the opponent a bit in making that armor roll as if it's a save roll. Because there's something about when you play a game about rolling to hit and then the other person getting to roll an armor save. It just feels like you're both engaged. However, I can see why. It's done for speed and to speed up the game and sort of make things a bit more efficient. You're not passing dice around and everything like that. So I am going to completely reserve judgment on that system until I get it on the tabletop and actually try it out. One thing that is very interesting about this system is that it's very much all measured and done from the leaders of each unit. Every unit has a leader. You do all your movement from that leader. You do all your measuring your firing from that leader. Now, this is a system that I first saw in the old AT-43 game, which was by Rackham. You probably don't remember it by now, but I've supported it for a long time. It's a great old system. I only got one edition though, so you know it's pretty creaky in places, but still very, very cool. And they've adopted a similar thing in Firefight, and it really speeds things up because you're not doing all this individual measuring and stuff. So, for example, when you move a unit, all you have to do is measure and move the leader, and then you just move the rest of the unit in coherency within 3 inches if you've got a small unit and more if you have a larger unit all incoherency of that leader. And it doesn't matter if some of the models from the unit actually end up further in advance of the leader, as long as they're all in coherency with that leader. So this is great. You're only doing one measurement. Instead of measuring all your individual models to get in place, you just measure the leader and then bring the rest of the unit up. Similarly, when you're firing, you're just measuring straight from the leader to the target unit. Very straightforward kind of system. And I'm really looking forward to trying it out and seeing how smoothly it goes. So after I finished this video, I decided to put together the main two vehicles from the Firefight set. And I want to give you some tips and also show you what they look like. Now, when you go online to the Mantic site, and after some hunting, it's quite hard to find, but there are a couple of videos on how to build these two models. Now, there's also a Reddit page that shows you how to build all of the Mantic sci-fi models. So if you Google for that, all the stuff is together in one go. Now, I've actually written to my contact at Mantic and asked them if they could make it easier to find the construction instructions for all of these models, and I think they may be doing something about that in the future, so hopefully it will get a lot easier to put these things together. But anyway, these tanks and this drill thing are pretty easy to put together, but the good thing is that you can they do come in some variants, and you can get all those variants together if you build them in a certain way. So this is the big, what's this thing called? It's a tunneler. Nice simple names. It's fantastic. Check it out. It's just basically a big tunneling cylinder. Now, if you build it so these things go into the inside here, and you can actually build this so they point the other direction and everything. But if you build it this way, it can come together like that. Now, I have to make these joins a bit more stiff. I'll put some plastic glue in there to make them a bit stiff because they're a bit floppy at the moment. But once they're a bit more stiff, they can go together like that. And that's your sort of basic build of the tunneler, which looks fantastic, huge. Now, what I've done is I've magnetized the back like this. Now, you could magnetize this piece to this and then attach this piece to the body. But I thought I was being clever because there were two bits here that poked out from here, and you could stick it together. And I thought, oh, that'd be great. The problem is that once you do that and you want to put one of these weapon variants in here, these two bits get in the way. So I ended up having to chop them away, put in some green stuff, put in my magnets, and put in two magnets on this side. I cut off the two bits that were sticking out and put in magnets there. And after a bit of fiddling about, that works perfectly. So that goes like that. And because this is chopped away, I can get these weapon variants in. And they line up, this bit here lines up with that bit there. So it goes in like so. Now, it may sit there by itself. Mine kept popping out, which is a bit annoying. So what I did is just make a little bit of cardboard like this. And that way I can stick that bit of cardboard in there. There we go, give it a twist. And that wedges it in like so. Now, it's not pretty from that side, but you can see that's really solidly wedged in there. And then when I put it like that, there it is, that huge weapon sticking out there. There's also another weapon, this one here, which is a bit more goofy looking. So that gives you a few variants on how to build this spectacular looking monster. Now we have the dwarf tank. Now this comes in a couple of different variants. This is the transport variant, so it's like a big transport machine. These are very easy to put together. This bit at the front is optional, but it looks pretty cool. It basically just sticks very simply on these two bits, so you just plonk it on the bit. And when you're doing that, the video will show you how to sort of slide it along and match it so it's still sitting flush on the ground. But yeah, nice chunky tank. However, if you build it in the way recommended by the video, you can take this whole back piece off like this. You glue it together like that instead of gluing it to the body. Take that off and then put this other glued together piece. And this, both of these consist of a top, a back, and two side pieces. Do it like that. You can see there's a bit where it attaches there, so it just slides into there and chunk. There you go. And now you've got the turreted variant, and I'm going to magnetize these weapons, but they could pop on like so. That one, or that one, and there's another one. There it is, hiding over there, like that. So you have three different types of tanks, or the transport variant. Very, very cool. Now in the Firefight rules, there's actually a little variant to the rules where you can play with just tanks. So that'd be pretty cool. These aren't too expensive, so you could get a whole bunch of them and play tank wars. one last thing I wanted to show you is that I had painted up some of these figures for Dead Zone. So these are the vermin figures. I believe this is the commander. I'm not sure if he's in this. I don't think he's in the Firefight set, but these ones certainly are. Which are these big guys? I forget the name of them, but horrible drill things there, like that. And then the vermin infantry look a bit like this. They're pretty cool. As you can see, nice sort of chunky playing pieces. Now I've painted this to a sort of army level. So basically I've used contrast paints and I've done the bases, and I haven't worried too much about highlighting and stuff because I wanted to get them done pretty quickly. One day when I have time, I can go back and make them look a bit more fancy with highlighting. But for the moment, this gets them done fast enough to get them on the table and playing the game. And of course, you get a couple of those in Firefight as well. I showed you that one before. I've heard a lot of good things about Firefight, and I will tell you more once I get to play the game. What am I going to play the game with? I hear you ask. Well, the miniatures that I've painted up from the last edition. So let's have a look at those. Since I can't show you all these painted up yet, I've got a bit of work to put these together and paint them. We'll have a look at the models from the last edition to give you an idea of what kind of models they are. Well, here we go. Check them out. A couple of nice little armies here, good starter armies. Now, we've been talking a bit about Warhammer, the old world, and old school models. And if you're looking for that sort of old school feel, Mantic has got you covered, because I particularly like these orcs who are just really solid, chunky looking orcs. Sorry, they're called marauders, but you know, they're space orcs, let's face it. And these really take me back to the early days of the hobby, because they're just solid and chunky gaming pieces. They look cool, but you're not going to go grabbing them and poking your fingers with all kinds of spindly, fragile, sharp, pointy bits. No, the orcs are no nonsense here. They're not mucking about. They're here to go and just hack into you. Not warg, of course, because that's probably a copyrighted term. But they're really violent looking and chunky looking. They basically look like, you know, basically bikers, really, don't they? But with orky heads. You've got a couple of guys here, or three guys here, who are totally over the top. They've got huge weapons and some kind of circular saw melee weapon here, which looks particularly nasty. You can see the poses as well are really basic. They're just take you on kind of thing. This guy's got a circular saw and some kind of weapon with a huge ammo belt and everything. So no finery and frippery here. No, that's for sure. Similarly, when you've got the enforcer guys, this is the commander. As you can see, nice big chunky silhouettes. Here's your normal looking guys. This is a assault enforcer. So he's got a sort of glowing arm sword thing. Some heavy weapons as well. They're just guys in power armor. They look very sort of, we've got to go out and get a job done. You've also got assault guys with shields. Really nice. A couple of very nice jetpacks. Now, these come on clear bases, which I haven't got attached, but you get the idea. Very cool. There's a lot of streamlining in that kind of design. I really like it. So I think these two armies, you've got a classic sort of space marine type figures versus space orcs going at it. And I think this is a perfect way to check out how Firefight works. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, if you've played Firefight, please tell me all about it in the comments below. I'd really like to hear your thoughts and what you think of it. And, you know, we can talk about Mantic versus Games Workshop and the similarities and the differences and all the rest of it. But let's not dwell on that too much. They're just fun games, and depending what type of game you prefer, you can go for it. I'll make some huge generalizations. These are big sweeping generalizations to give you an idea. The Mantic models aren't as elaborate and finely detailed and beautiful as Games Workshop figures. Their quality level is certainly not the same. They don't go together as beautifully. But they do have an endearing kind of chunkiness. As I said, you don't have all the sort of little bits and sharp things flying off and lots of detail that breaks and everything. as wargaming pieces, they're kind of solid and honest. I don't think that they're going to win any amazing awards for design or anything, but I just think they're great gaming pieces. And some people will really prefer the aesthetics of them. It's a very different style to Games Workshop, which these days is very much into super detail, beautiful, finely tuned miniatures. So there's a different style there. From what I've played, the rules, it's an interesting comparison. If you compare Dead Zone to Kill Team, for example, I think Dead Zone is a faster playing, more streamlined system. But one thing I've also learnt is that some people really like the fine granular detail that Games Workshop brings to its rules, and especially special rules for particular units and things like that. So again, it's a matter of taste. They're just different games and different types of experiences. So I know it's hard to try all these things out and make a choice there, and because of the expense and everything. But let's face it, the thing that Mantic has over Games Workshop is that they're much more affordable. If you want to get into playing science fiction and fantasy games, you'll probably get a bit more bang for your buck from Mantic than you will from Games Workshop. Anyway, let's put the comparisons aside and concentrate again on Mantic and Firefight. And as I said, I'm going to get a game of this together as soon as possible and let you know how it plays. And then I'm going to start painting up those two other armies. And I'm going to have some pretty impressive Mantic sci-fi armies. And hopefully the Firefight system will work really smoothly. I'll see how it goes and I will let you know. So let me know what you think in the comments and whether you'd like to see lots more Firefight coverage. I'll certainly get a battle report together so you can see how it is in action. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. This is the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Please go to all my social media links. They're all on the website at orderofgamers.com, so you can keep track of what's going on and all the new stuff that I release all the time. And while you're there at the website, check out the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rules references, including one for Firefight that you can download for free and print out, and they'll make your games playing and learning a lot easier. And if you love the stuff that the Esoteric Order of Gamers does, I've got a Patreon channel so you can support me regularly. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. If you don't want to do that, there's a one-off donation page on the website if you appreciate my stuff. I'll see you next time, everybody. Good gaming. Bye for now.